Salamat Datang. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this panel discussion at the Thermax Roadshow. Today, we are diving into a topic that is not just timely but critical for all of us: energy transition in Indonesia, balancing growth, sustainability, and accessibility. Indonesia, as one of the fastest growing economies in the region, stands at a pivotal crossroads. The country is making a significant strides in decarbonization while also addressing the challenges of energy security, industrial growth, and equitable access to clean energy. The transition to sustainable energy must not only support economic expansion, but also ensure that industries, businesses, and communities can access affordable, reliable, and clean energy solutions. To explore this multifaceted challenge, we have with us a distinguished panel of industry leaders, policymakers, and sustainability experts who will share their insights on the current landscape of energy transition in Indonesia, the key enablers and challenges industries face in this journey, how can we collectively drive innovation, scalable, and sustainable solutions. This promises to be an enlightening conversation, and I encourage all of you to actively engage with our panelists as we navigate this crucial discussion.
Welcome to our panel discussion. I think it's a very honor for me to be here, and it's a privilege for me to be able to moderate. This is going to be a very important session because I think early in the presentation we have heard about the presentation about the sort of granular aspect of what it takes to be sustainable. I think in terms of availability, I think it's already available. But I think going back to our big title today, the problem of obviously balancing growth and sustainability, because again, the question of accessibility, I think we have the answers already. And I think this discussion is I think that the timing of it's very fitting because we have a new administration. We have the administration of Pak Prabowo promising to deliver big on the issue of sustainability. We have Pak Hasim talking at COP about delivering more sustainable energy, but at the same time, and again, this is going to be a balancing between growth and sustainability, but at the same time, we have also heard some policy pronouncement from Pak Prabowo's team about the energy security or energy sustainability, where I think it's safe to say that it's going to be a while for Indonesia to stick with coal and fossil fuel, while also transitioning towards sustainability and more use of renewable energies. So I think the discussion will talk more about the sort of helicopter view of what to do in the context of Indonesia. And I want to start first because Ibu Dirjen is not here yet. I want to first talk about the Indonesian perspective, and I want to go to I think Pak Darmono on this, is that what does it take, Pak Darmono? And this is based on your experience at Jababeka, on the need of being sustainable, but at the same time, you also have to think about growth. I think that's sort of key questions that we first have to answer. Please, Pak Darmono.
Thank you, Pak. Well, I run 4 industrial estate, not all manufacturing, but 2 of them very successful industrial estate for manufacturing. The other 2 are actually more on the tourism sectors. So the one in Cikarang is the one which has been developed for the last 36 years. And we have more than 2,400 and 400 companies from about 34 countries in our area. when we began to develop this area, our motto was to build a world-class infrastructure and to have a friendly environment and a clean city. So that was a successful concept to begin with, so that very quickly, within 3 years, we were able to attract many companies, and 500 hectares were sold in 3 years. So that when we went public in 1994, then we became a $1 billion with market cap of the company. So it's actually 500 times of the original capital. So this is because we emphasize on building a first-class infrastructure. So we started with building a water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant, which guaranteed all the customers that they do not need to have their own water resources. They do not need to take the wells. At that time, it was common that factories were taking wells. So at that time, we supplied water to all of them. We took the water from Jatiluhur Dam, and we processed it to become an industrial water, WHO standard. We processed 100,000 tons per day of water to be supplied to the factories in that area. And then we also collected the wastewater, and we treated again and recycled, become a clean water, which then we discharge to the sea. Actually, we could have just recycled completely like in Singapore, but this was just too expensive. So I'm happy that Thermax Indonesia is offering new technology. So we would be able, I think, to work together with Thermax on how to become sustainable in the area of the water treatment plant. And then after that, PLN was not able to supply enough electricity in 1991. Our demand at that time was already 100 megawatts, and PLN could only supply 41 megawatts. So I had to go to Russia to get supply generators, which was the only one available, 1 year delivery. The others needed 24 months, but that is BMW, Mercedes-Benz, who also produce generators. So Russia was at that time in a very difficult situation in 1991. So they needed cash very quickly. So I was able to get 27 megawatt delivered in 6 months. So they canceled delivery to Somalia and delivered to us because we paid cash. But it was diesel power plant. So it was not following our motto of clean energy. So we switched quickly to GE gas turbine, combined cycle, for 100 megawatt something, I think 120 megawatt, with gas, of course, supply. It's still fossil, but it was clean energy. So this was very attractive already at the beginning. Now we need to go to renewable energy. So we've been talking to PLN also about changing it to solar system. The problem is it is still relatively more expensive. It also requires battery to meet the demand when it is at night, because when we use solar, there is a gap when the sun cannot supply the electricity. So this is still a process ongoing with PLN, how we can work together. Again, if Thermax is able to help us on this one, that would be also something which can be the example of other industrial estate development in Indonesia. But not stopping there, we also want to do some energy from production from waste. So this is, again, I've seen the presentation just now, that this is the area where also government is pushing us to have our own waste treatment plant for organic and organics waste. So far, our waste treatment plant was only for water, but I think we need to go into things like rubbish, and this one, again, I hope we can work together with Thermax. Actually, I was inviting Aziz, Thermax should become our partners in developing 100 industrial estate in Indonesia, which the government needed very much. So that's, I think, the beginning. Well, others panelists here can
Thank you, Pak.
and expand further. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Darmono. I think that's a very tangible problem, but also tangible solution. I have a couple of follow-up questions. Probably I'm going to save it for later. I want to go over to Mr. Ambassador. We have Indonesia and India collaborating in a number of issues. And I think when on the issue of Indonesia and India collaboration, what is it that India can offer in terms of expertise in energy solution, Mr. Ambassador?
Thank you, Pak Taufik. First of all, I would like to congratulate Thermax for organizing this event, and I would also like to appreciate the excellent presentation which Mr. Patil made. I think it was very, very educative. I learned. I always respected Thermax, but today, after spending an hour seeing your products and the solutions that you have, I think you really made a mark on all of us. So, and rarely it happens that a panelist becomes a customer. So I see already Pa Darmono is going to become your customer. But I agree with your proposal of Thermax partnering with you for 100 industrial estates. At least they can provide the energy and the waste management solutions to the estates that you are planning in Indonesia. So I think, Pa Taufik, you see, India and Indonesia have similar challenges in the sense that our energy mix is more or less the same. I was looking at some data, and I will share that data with you. You see, Indonesia's coal, energy from coal is 77%. India is 81%, more or less comparable. Hydro, India is 8.1%, Indonesia is 8.1%, India is 9.7%. Okay, again, very comparable. Wind, you are very low, 0.1%, we have 4.6%. Solar, again, very low in Indonesia, 0.1%, we have 4%. And you have hardly, you have no nuclear power, we have 2.6% nuclear power. So basically, both countries are highly dependent on coal. And as the presenter was saying, we cannot wish away coal. Coal will remain an important part of our energy mix. But then the challenge is to make it clean coal and find solutions to do carbon capture and other mitigation methods. And I think there both India and Indonesia can work together, because we do not see a scenario where there will be dramatic turnaround in the energy mix. It will reduce, we may, India's goal is to have 56% of its energy from RE by 2030. And Indonesia also has very ambitious RE goals, but I don't see it dramatically changing. So we have to go for clean coal, and I think there companies like Thermax can play a big role, because we are implementing solutions and we are implementing, we are trying to follow our NDC commitments, and India is, I think, one of the few G20 countries which has met its commitments, NDC commitments, and we are going ahead. What we can also do is to share best practices. For instance, India has pioneered something known as the International Solar Alliance. International Solar Alliance is an international body which brings together countries in development of solar power. We would welcome Indonesia to become part of the International Solar Alliance. There are several other initiatives that we have taken. For instance, there is a Global Biofuel Alliance, we are inviting Indonesia to become part of the Global Biofuel Alliance. What is the advantage of becoming part of these initiatives is that then you learn how other countries are adapting to the challenge. And I think there India and Indonesia can really work together and address the challenges that we face. Also, we work together very closely in the UNFCCC framework, and in the recent COPV, India and Indonesia were on the same side when both the countries demanded greater financing, green finance, for our green energy projects, because although the world is asking us to turn green, the financing is not available. And in fact, green financing is in fact sometimes more tricky than normal financing. So India and Indonesia are on the same side as far as greening our economy is concerned. We also are aware that Indonesia has become part of the just energy transition. We have not officially become part of that, but India is transitioning. India has set up huge capacities in solar and wind power. In fact, some of our solar and wind power stations are the largest in the world. We are coming up with a solar and wind power station in Gujarat, which will produce 30 gigawatt of RE in the coming year. So amazing capacities are being installed in India. We are also seeing similar initiatives in Indonesia. I think we have to be aware that we should not get mired in the global geopolitics, and we need to hedge our risks. We need to have more partners, and in that scenario, I think India and Indonesia become valuable, because working with Indonesia, making solar panels in Indonesia, buying from India, they will not invite geopolitical contestation. So we should be aware of that. I think that is something again becomes an opportunity for India and Indonesia to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Sandeep. Okay, I remember from my last visit to India, I think we visited the Office of Disaster Preparedness, and we asked the questions, which of countries in Asia that has not been a member of that, and the answer was Indonesia. So probably it's a matter of time that Indonesia could join sort of the alliance that you have just mentioned. But I think that's a perfect segue to my next questions from Director General of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation. Sorry, Pak, we have started without you because I think the time limitation. But I think actually this is the first question, and this is sort of the major question, is that we have heard some big policy pronouncement from the political level, Pak Prabowo, Pak Hashim at COP. But I think from the ministerial level, from your agency, what are the government key priorities in accelerating the Indonesia's transition to renewable energy, while at the same time, keeping the energy security in place? This has been the discussion recently. Please, and can you introduce yourself to the audience, because we haven't had a chance to introduce.
All right, thank you. Apologize for being late. My name is Kiki Hudiatma, the ambassador, and I'm representing our Director General, Ibu Professor Enia. She couldn't join directly because she was still at the Parliament. We had some discussion on the biofuels, which relates to your question as well. So my name is, I'm a director of geothermals for the last almost a year now. So prior to that position, I was a director of energy conservation. By that time, I had a chance to visit India twice during the G20 event in Goa, which is very excellent, and bilateral event in New Delhi. So pretty much I have in touch with the Indian partner for some time. So come back to your question, how under the current administration, how we put priority in terms of renewable energy. So as I briefly mentioned about the biofuel, we are increasing our blending of biodiesels. From this year, we implemented a B40, 40% biofuel primarily from palm oil plantation as well. So in the coming years, in 2026, There are plans to introduce B50. So we are still almost 2 months for mandatory of B40. And then we'll see how it's progressing well so that we can balance between the need for export market, including to India, and also the need to meet the energy independency or increasing the energy resilience to biofuel for the transport sectors, because this is, if I see one of the biggest energy consumption in the country is from the transport. So we have to decarbonize those sectors. When it comes to electricity, so there will be soon, this is still ongoing finalization of the RUPTL of PLN, where we will see how more greener RUPTL will become afterwards. But what I would like to say here is that how we put prioritize on renewable in line with our commitment into the Paris Agreement. And secondly, how it will improve or increase our energy resilience. So put in the place that in eastern part of Indonesia, like in the Flores Islands, like in the Maluku, in Kalimantan, in area where currently the electricity is predominantly coming from diesel oil or fuel oil, that we need to change into, or to reduce at least, to reduce that consumption into more local fuels. That's why PLN with government as well, they have program of de-dieselization, which is still underway under PLN. But we also have a geothermal program, which is currently also Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources itself that currently doing the procurement and tendering of the geothermal working area. So last year we successfully tendered and announced the winner of a 7 geothermal working area with total capacity of 340 megawatt. And this project is located in relatively small island, like in Komodo Island in Flores, whereby more than 50% of electricity coming from oil-based power generators. So that's why we use local resources as much as possible coming from renewable. In that case, geothermal combined with small hydro and also solar to reduce the oil consumption in those islands. So we will see that's opportunity. So opportunity for us to work together between Indonesia and India, how we can partnership in terms of, I know that maybe geothermal is not, when it comes to exploration, it's relatively new to India, but when it comes to exploitation, it comes to power generators, we can work together, find solution. I saw transformer manufacturing circuit breakers coming from India. It's very common in Indonesia. So I also visited one of the factory in eastern part of Jakarta, in Cilengsi, where we have transformer manufacturing, circuit breaker and cubicles, that we can work together to find solution, cost-based solution to provide medium to small scale, let's say 20 megawatt, 30 megawatt of electricity coming from geothermal in those locations. Because at the upstream side, there are quite a few players from Japan, from America, and from domestic from Indonesia as well, like Pertamina Geothermal, Medco Power. There are increasingly a number of companies who work from oil and gas. They also open their business to renewable, especially in the geothermal. So that's area where we can find cooperation. But you also mentioned about the solar. Yes, agree with that. So Solar Alliance is something interesting. So we can identify location also in the eastern part where the solar irradiance is quite high. How we can use like Sumba Islands, close to Australia, solar irradiance is quite high, so we can develop maybe combination between on-grid or off-grid solar solution, whether it is to produce electricity or electricity and then coming into hydrogen. This is something that also interesting how we can explore area of cooperation. Hydrogen and ammonia is something new for Indonesia. And also, we also would like to have a lesson learned and sharing as well for nuclear power as well. So in our latest RUKN, the National General Plan of Electricity, there already some indicative plan to introduce nuclear in our energy supply for electricity. So that's my response to your question.
Okay, thank you, Pak. I want to move over to Ashish, and especially on the role that Thermax can play in this energy transition, or trying to be more renewable.
Thank you. And I can speak, or I can share. And what you heard over the last 1 hour in the presentation that was made and everything, you saw a whole host of things that Thermax can do as part of helping and working this energy transition. If there were 3 areas that I would look at, which is this question that I had earlier in the morning, I would first look at this whole biomass and agro waste and waste to energy as one of the key spaces to start off. And that is because Indonesia is abundant with this natural resource. It is spread across islands. It is across different food types and agriculture types. Palm is, of course, number 1, and palm to diesel is something Indonesia has taken a lead on. But there are numerous other sub-segments in this. Indonesia can look at not just PKS, which is the highest energy source, but also the palm fiber, empty fruit bunch. Every part of the palm supply chain, what is produced, can be brought back into energy in some form or another. It has abundant rice. Rice waste can be brought in, can get converted into natural gas, what is called as bio-CNG. Sugarcane waste and sugarcane can be brought into ethanol. The way you have biodiesel, you can actually, ethanol is a substitute for petrol. Yeah, and Brazil, India, they're taking big steps forward in bringing ethanol into the market. Those are all technologies that Indonesia can look at. To me, it feels like burning like diesel, especially, it is almost a crime to burn diesel for power anywhere, because it is expensive, it harms the environment, and there are so many alternatives that are available that are more cost effective in every respect. Diesel burning should just not be done at all, in just my personal opinion. The second is just looking at waste heat across industries, yeah, and which is new technology. It drives awareness. There are efficiency standards for various different industries, like we had a discussion on cement plants. All cement plants generate significant amount of waste heat, where a cement plant, by using that waste heat, depending on the size of the plant, can get 9 megawatts to 15 megawatts of energy just from the waste heat itself. And that is practically free energy that is available. The payback to you can be 3 to 4 years, and it replaces more expensive energy source from any other alternative that you may have. So this whole waste energy, etc., is a great place. The third is more advanced solutions, like Pa Gigi was talking about, looking at hydrogen, advanced biofuels. They are all starting to do work and experimentation. Green ammonia will be a big space. All countries that are around Indonesia, starting from Singapore, Australia, Korea, Japan, they all have significant green ammonia import targets. Indonesia can become a great place for a hub with geothermal, abundant other natural resources that are available to become a hub for green hydrogen as well. Thermax would love to partner on newer projects around technology for setting up some of these plants and capabilities. So a whole host of solutions, but instead of me speaking, everybody has seen for the 1 hour what we are capable and what we can do. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. I have Oh, actually, two responses to that. But I want to go back to Pa Darmono, and probably after that, Ashish can pick up on the question, is that I think earlier Pa Darmono mentioned about when you have to deal with utility companies, for instance. But, well, and this has been, not the problem, but this has been sort of the situation that sometimes when you're dealing with policymakers or bureaucracy, you have problems. But what do you think that Jababeka or Thermax or the private sector can sort of help in crafting policies on this issue, on the issue of sustainability or a faster switch to renewable, for instance? So what can the private sector can do in sort of influencing policy?
Well, I think first we have to have master plan, how to achieve the goal together. Now, Indonesia is a very large country with 17,000 islands mentioned before, and we cannot generalize the treatment to be the same everywhere in Indonesia. We have to differentiate. For example, we have the so-called special economic zone policy. But if the regulation is the same all over Indonesia, then it is no longer special. It's general economic zone. So this has to be planned properly. For example, if in Kalimantan, the source of coal, the biggest is in that area. So we should plan for an economic zone in that area based on coal. And Thermax here can help us in the research how the coal, the coal pollution can be minimized. It's the same like with the cement industry, for example. So Java is the most crowded. It should be protected most because we have most people here. So renewable energy, green energy should be concentrated in Java. But again, it takes time to change this. Otherwise, it's not balanced. The industry will also be in trouble if we move too quickly to renewable energy because the cheapest is still coal. So that's why to remain competitive, we need also coal. But we should concentrate in an area where we can combat the pollution. If it's all over Indonesia using coal, it's very expensive to deal with it. So we have to choose a location. So that way, we do need, Pak Gige, master planning. Yeah. Which area we want to do this specialization on improving the situation, a green industrial estate. Because if we do this in a proper industrial estate, I think we can influence the society in that area. Everybody would want to have also green energy. But choose the area where it's not too much, not big population, maybe in a separate islands, and something which already have a problem, for example, Kalimantan. So that, I think, would be my advice that the academic, the businessmen, and the government must work together. We must find solution which is for the benefit of the society, but it must be different from one area to another area.
Pak Taufik, may I share just one example? And there are many more bigger experts than me to talk about policy. But I have one example on just reflecting on how India drove renewables as an example. What India did was the national power company was broken up so that the grid was separated from the generation, which means that the grid management became open and available to anybody that wanted to produce electricity. So you could be like, if Pa Darmono's industrial estate needs green energy, Pa Darmono can set up a solar plant anywhere else, use the grid to provide electricity to what he needs. Yeah, so the central company does not have to take care of everybody. The private company can come in, private capex can come in, and solar now is cheaper than coal in India for big portions. And that is an availability that Indonesia has also in a big way, but it does require policy and private companies to come together to develop what can be called as win-win solutions. It's just one example in a way, but I'll let everybody else share a lot more, yeah? And you're smiling, so...
Okay, thank you, Ashit. I want to go back to Mr. Ambassador, because I think we have discussed about, the solution is there, the potential is there, and Darmono has told us about how this is implemented. But I think when it comes to investing in that, and probably this is going to be a question from the Indian side, how attractive is the proposal to invest in renewable in Indonesia, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, before I get into that, you see, I would also like to mention that, the challenge in solar is storage. But now, very innovative storage systems have come into place. For instance, you can use solar during the day to produce hydrogen, and then you store it as hydrogen. In India, we have also come out with pump storage, which is solar cum hydel power, in the sense that during the day you produce solar power and you pump back there are two reservoirs upstream and downstream, and you pump back the water. So the water flows in a cycle, and during the night you produce hydel power. So these kind of solutions are already under implementation. Now coming to your specific question, I think one challenge we have faced in Indonesia is the policy framework. For instance, in India, wheeling and dealing in renewables is allowed. Okay, so anybody can produce RE, put it into the grid, and then charge the utility company. And when you need other power, you can take it back from the grid, and the grid or the utility pays you. I know, for example, a few years back, there was an Indian major called NTPC. They were interested in a solar power plant in one island in Indonesia, but the utility would not allow them to put it into the grid. So the investor went back. I understand that now PLN is allowing wheeling, or is it not still in place? I don't know. But I think that is important, because if you want to generate power only for your own consumption, I think it doesn't remain an attractive proposition. If you are producing RE, you should be able to wheel it into the grid and then get paid for it. I think that is an important challenge that we face, and I think the policy framework is moving towards that. And now technology is allowing underwater transmission of power. We are talking of something known as one world, one sun, one grid. So basically, connect the grids of Asia, Australia, Indonesia, Singapore, right up to India and up to Western Europe. So basically, as the sun moves, the electrical solar energy production will move. And then, you can trade power across several grids. So now the barrier was underwater transmission of power. I think with every passing year, it is becoming cheaper and more feasible to transmit power underwater. So that's a solution for Indonesia. You need not to produce solar power or coal-based power in Java. You can produce it elsewhere in Indonesia and then transmit it across the islands. I think technological solutions are allowed, but what I think is important is a favorable policy framework, and you will find investors coming into Indonesia, because Indonesia offers so many options, from geothermal to nuclear now. And I think you need investors, and I think if the policy framework is there, companies will come and invest.
Okay, and this is obviously a question to the government, but so I think the solution is there, the partnership is there, and you mentioned something about the undersea grid. I think there's been a deal between Australian vendors with Singapore to deliver electricity from Australia to Singapore. Those kind of things exist, and the question for the government is, what can the government offer in terms of partnership with private sectors, players like Thermax, like Jababeka, or independent power producers, for instance? How flexible is the climate or the regulation today, Pak?
Thank you. That's a very important question. Thank you, Excellency Ambassador, for pointing out some of the case study of the solar PV utilization that was not cannot connect to the PLN grids. So when it comes to connectivity, thank you. We have a right. So we have well above 17,000 islands. So we under the coming RUPTL, even in before the RUPTL, there are already study that we will have a vision of super grid solution, where they're connecting between the main islands with the submarine cables. So hopefully we can see between Sumatra and Java will soon be interconnected by the submarine cable under 500 kV that will enabling energy resources from Sumatra that can be transferred to meet the demand in Java, because the limitation of the land and space in this Java island is now constraining the new power plant developments. So that's the first area of cooperation, like transmission, grids, substations, and its accessories. As I mentioned before, that's how we can work together with the Thermax in that area. But when it comes to how, like Mr. Aziz mentioned, that we have flexibility in terms of generating powers and then have a direct selling to a PPA to the customers. I see that's very challenging in Indonesia, because even last year, in November last year, there are some constitutional court, Mahkamah Konstitusi, that already emphasized that the supply of electricity in Indonesia has to be integrated, fully integrated between generators, transmission, distribution, and retail. So that's why we have to play around under that regulatory environments to find a solution. Like Jababeka has a wilayah usaha, which include generators. That is good. So because still comply with the constitutional court that how the electricity business in this country has to be integrated. So how we can work together? So the IPP is still the business. So IPP, so long as they have a PPA with the power utility, whether it is PLN, whether it is Cikarang Listrindo, Jababeka, then they can still do the transactions. But we also exploring area of how we can use the grids. So Jababeka, I believe they want to increase the share of renewable to meet the demand from the industry in this area. But the space is limited. Solar PV rooftop is limited also. So we're trying to explore area of utilizing the transmission grid of PLN so that the company can build maybe solar PV in outside the area, maybe also geothermal in other area, or biomass in other location, that then they can utilize the PLN grids. So this is area that we are exploring together, finding the best solution under the circumstances in Indonesia, that the electricity business has to be fully integrated. I think that's my response, but when it comes to solar rooftop, yeah, there are some progress on that. So PLN already released quota how much industry can install the solar PV for their industry, for their own consumption, unfortunately, not for the net metering. There is no transaction that can be deemed, can be returned after afternoon or evening when the solar is not producing. So that's the challenge and also opportunity in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. And on the questions of opportunity, I want to go back to Pak Darmono. Probably now we're still relying on traditional source of fuel, but do you think that Jababeka in particular can take advantage of the transition to renewable, or how can you exploit renewables to generate new source of growth, for instance, for Jakarta, or you're going to exploit the existing platform fuel in terms of coal and something that is non-renewable. Do you think this presents you with a new business opportunity?
Yes, Pak Taufik. Actually, Jakarta and other industrial assets in that area, I think there are 7 of them. And 5 of the industries are supplied by Cikarang Lesrindo, which is using gas. So this is a green energy. But also I think they have maybe coal in North Bekasi. And Jakarta started with it not with our own power plant, which is PT Bekasi Power, which is ambitious in that area, that we want to actually use the rooftop as the source of solar energy supply. But this has to be supported by government, by PLN, so that it can be done step by step by introducing real energy, but still this has to be competitive and be able to make the factories that are willing to cooperate with us. So this in Cikarang totally would be 15,000 hectares, Pak Kiki. So it's a not small area for solar energy. So this is something which I think is a big opportunity also for Thermax. That's why I've been talking about offering Thermax to be our partner instead of just selling technology or equipment. So that would be the opportunity. And only not Thermax. I think it's for a lot of Indian manufacturing companies also can join with us for this kind of development. We have in Kendal 2,400 hectares. This one is also supplied by PLN, and also a lot of companies requires renewable energy. So again, PLN can work together with us in Kendal, which is in partnership with Sembcorp Singapore, which is also, Sembcorp is also very much in the energy business. And then we have Tanjung Lesung and Morotai Island. So these two definitely is a green energy, it's a resort, and Morotai is an island 4 times larger than Singapore, which can be developed into Indonesian icon for smart green city using renewable energy. So that is the opportunity which we've been working on it. But the presidents before, like SBY, Pak Jokowi, and I hope also Pak Prabowo, would also work together with many industrial estates to develop more special economies all over Indonesia. That would be a great opportunity. Is that okay, Pak Taufik?
Okay, probably this is my last question, and I'm going to be for Ashish. I want to give the audience the opportunity to sort of provide a global perspective on Indonesia, because Thermax has been operating in a number of countries. So what are some of the things that Indonesia can learn from success stories in other countries, in other territories, in India, in other places where you can have a successful transition?
Look, I think it is not my place. As I said, you've got a lot of leaders out here to talk about it. I'll actually maybe rephrase the question a little bit to talk about why is it that I'm so excited as a leader to think that Indonesia is a great market for a company like Thermax. Yeah, and where we are talking about energy transition, this is a country which is relatively young. It is growing fast, almost 6% with an aspiration to grow at 8%. And I was sharing in the morning, if you're growing at 8%, your energy needs are growing double digit, because a lot of that growth has to come from industry. And so in that sense, this is a country which is right in the middle of this question of energy transition, because you not only have to take care of your existing infrastructure, you have to add a lot more capability from an energy point of view. And that capability you can reimagine. because you have a lot of new technologies at play. You can reimagine how to do those things. And where that reimagination is needed, companies like Thermax can come into play, because we can provide technology, we can provide new ideas, provide services on the ground, application engineering. Most importantly, bring the idea that frugal engineering has to play. Because whatever solutions you bring to the market, they have to be practical. You cannot come up with solutions that are so expensive that nobody would buy. And coming from India, that is at the core of what we do. Yeah, whatever we come with has to be practical for the markets. And I think this market is, I mean, our business in Indonesia is growing, which is why we are here. The interest is there. And policy, everything else will keep moving at a good pace. We cannot worry that every policy has to be perfect. We have to play by the rules of the game in the local market and make sure that we are flexible to adapt to the rules of that local market. And we are prepared to do so. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's a very rare opportunity that we have Pak Darmono, Pak Ashish, Pak Sandip, and a very senior official from the government. So I think I will take the opportunity to have, I think, 2 questions. Oh, you have to leave, Pak Darmono. Okay, so we have to excuse Pak Darmono. So thank you so much, Pak Darmono, for your contribution, and I think we should give him an applause. Thank you, Pak Darmono. Thank you, Pak Darmono, for your participation. Yeah, I would like to take 2 questions. It's a very rare opportunity to have this frank discussion. So please identify yourself, or if anyone from the floor want to take questions. Anyone? Oh, yeah, we have one from table 9.
Hello, this is the question for Mr. Ashish. I am Clement from Heidelberg Materials. Do you explore in geothermal energy side? Do you have any advancement in this?
So Thermax, specifically in geothermal, we do not. Yeah, and simply because geothermal involves drilling under the ground, and a lot of the oil and gas traditional companies, the previous company that I was with, GE, Schlumberger, those are the companies that are working below the ground. Once you bring that heat up, a lot of the solutions that we have around heat usage, heat management, driving district heating, district cooling, integrated power solutions based on the heat that comes from geothermal, that Thermax can play a big role in. Yeah, but the idea of drilling underground and bringing that heat up is not Thermax's play. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, still have one more questions. Yeah, gentleman at the back. Very last question, and we're going to wrap up.
I'm Abhishek from Thermax. I have the question for the Indonesian panelist that you are talking about developers from India to invest here in Indonesia, but PLN being the major off-taker, what is your point of non-OECD countries' acceptance when you are dealing directly with them?
I'm not sure if I can answer that question.
I don't think I'm okay.
Yeah, but basically, if you play on the electricity business in Indonesia, you need to understand the local structure of regulation, that single off-taker, like single buyer market model, PLN. So, but apart from that, so PLN itself cannot provide all of the solution of the electricity supply. So he need partner in terms of independent power producers, be it electricity from solar, coal, renewable, or geothermal. So there are many companies, not just PLN, but from all over the world. Just like last month, we have a geothermal coming COD from in East Java from American company, from Indonesian company in Central Java, and also from Japan. So we welcome India to also contribute. In terms of incentive, we already provide incentive in terms of tariff, which is quite commercially very acceptable from if I see the international partner, what they say. So, but we also, we can help you with how we can channeling you to get the PPA from PLN. They have regulatory framework to enable faster PPA processing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak. You want
Just
to
one
add a little
point
bit?
which I think Ashish mentioned, and I think I will reiterate, is that power sector reforms requires power producers and the grid to be managed separately. And I'll give you one example. From India, power producers are exporting electricity using the grid owned by a company to export electricity to Bangladesh. And now Nepal is using our grid to export electricity to Bangladesh. Because the grid is not owned by the power producer, this is possible. I think we will have to move into that kind of a framework in Indonesia also in the future, because that will then generate competition, and that will allow independent power producers and also trading in RE, because you can produce RE in Dharmono can produce RE in Kalimantan and then download it here without producing it in Java Baker. I think that is the scenario we will have to finally work towards, which will invite more investment into Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, probably a final word from Ashish if you want to say something. Okay.
I think my only final word would be, look, again, a big, big thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the esteemed guests that have been here, my co-panelists who are just fabulous to devote so much of their time, from the ministry, such leading officials, and from the embassy as well. Having such senior people come in is just incredible. And to all our customers, our partners, everyone here, thank you so much. I hope you took away something that is of value to you, and wish you the best. If there are other solutions we can help with, and certainly dinner later on. So thank you again.
Thank you, Ashish. Okay, I don't want to stand between you and dinner, so I think we should wrap up our discussion. I think we have had a tremendous amount of knowledge that we can share, and I think obviously Thermax have a solution to some of the needs that you have in your individual enterprises. Again, thank you so much for taking the time, and hope to see you again anytime soon. Thank you so much.
Once again, thank you for your valuable contribution, and thank you to our audience for being a part of this important conversation. Let's continue to work together to build a cleaner, greener, and more sustainable tomorrow. Thank you, and please enjoy your dinner. Thank you, everyone.